When my wife was a little girl, many years ago, her son of a bitch father was out mowing the yard. They have a large yard. And he was, hot, sweaty. And so my wife, again, as a little girl in grade school, thought she would be kind, thought she would be nice. And she poured him a big, tall glass of cold iced tea and brought it out to him while he was engaged in mowing the yard. And she approached him and handed the son of a bitch her glass of tea. And he went off on her and said that her hands were dirty and proceeded to take the glass of tea and pour it down the shirt she was wearing, or on top of the shirt. An act of sincere, pure, genuine, uncoerced kindness, rewarded with what can only be described as shameful, despicable evil. These are the things that stick with you your whole life. These are the things you simply don't forgive and forget. But did you know this is a common trait with malignant narcissists and psychopaths? They crap all over your sincere kindness. They like doing it. They like to piss all over your acts of love and compassion. Have you discovered this? The narc enjoys taking a dump on your act of kindness toward him. I guess growing up I was fortunate because I hated my narc stepmother from the moment I laid eyes on her. I was never compelled to do any acts of kindness toward her or my dad, even as a little child. Thank God. Thank God. But so many abuse victims, particularly those who were raised among covert narcs, know exactly what I'm talking about. Rewarding you evil for good. That's what the Bible says. I'd like to read a story, a very familiar story, from 1 Samuel 18, about David and Saul. Saul took a big fat dump on David when David was simply trying to show kindness, overwhelming kindness and love to Saul. Okay, I'll start at verse 1. 1 Samuel 18, starting at verse 1. It came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan, who was Saul's son, was knit with the soul of David. Jonathan loved David as his own soul. And Saul took David that day and would not let him go, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And David went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set David over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people. And he was accepted in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing, to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very proud of David that day, and said, I love this man. He made a covenant with my son. That's the highest honor in all humankind, is to enter into a blood covenant with somebody. Saul was proud of David. Saul looked at David like a proud father looks at his son, and said, yes, that's my boy. That's my boy. I was a pretty good warrior in my day. But David, I got to admit it, I have to give it to him. He outdid me in the warrior department. I love this man. No, that is not what Saul said. That's not what the Narc said. The women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. And Saul was very wroth. And the saying displeased him. Huh? This man, David, just won the battle over Philistia for you. And yeah, there's women who are singing a song about him. But you're jealous, Saul? This guy's a narc. It's all about me, isn't it, Saul? It's all about how I look to those women. Pathetic. Pathetic. Saul was wroth, and the saying displeased him, and he said, They have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they've only ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? So that's what it's all about with you, Saul, huh? Power. Control. And Saul eyed David from that day and forward. Have you ever been eyed by the narc? Those creeps will stalk you. I digress. And it came to pass on the morrow, this is the next day, that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. It's kind of a lousy translation. A more modern translation would read, Saul fell into a frenzy. He opened the door to demonic activity. His behavior was so depraved. So many have told me, I've seen it myself too, that they've seen their narc become so enraged that it's almost demonic. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because it is. You know, some out there may not believe in demonic spirits. Go tell that to an African from Africa. Go tell that to someone from Haiti. They'll laugh at you. In this country, we just put the demon-possessed in insane asylums and forget they ever existed. So Saul's going crazy. Saul's overcome with narc rage to the point that a demonic spirit has taken control of him, and he's frothing at the mouth. So they call, I'm sure Saul's servants called David in to play his harp, and I'm sure you're familiar with this. David used to play his harp to soothe Saul's nerves and get him to calm down. So this is what's going on now. David played with his hand as at other times. So David's playing his harp for Saul while Saul is losing it. And there was a javelin or a spear in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will kill David even to the wall with it. I'll pin him against the wall with this spear. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and he was departed from Saul. The Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul. Yeah, that happens. Mr. Narc. Mr. and Mrs. Covert Narc, who love to hide behind the cloak of Christianity, when all the while the Spirit of God long ago departed from you. So David, who I know loved Saul, David, who's doing everything he can to bless Saul and show kindness to him, has become the object of Saul's dementia and wrath. And I'm sure, just like my wife thought when her son of a bitch dad poured the tea down her front, I'm sure David's thinking, what the hell's going on with this guy? Malignant narcs crap all over our kindness to them. Can I give you a theory as to why? I'm just going to tell you why. One of the reasons, I'm sure there's a multitude of reasons, but one reason I believe is this. And it's found in Proverbs, and it's also found in Romans, but I will read this verse from Proverbs chapter 25. It's in the 21st and 22nd verses. I'm going to read from the King James and then the Complete Jewish Bible. The King James reads like this: If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. For thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee. Now, I was always taught that this verse basically meant if you're nice to your enemy, he'll come around eventually. He'll feel guilty for what he's done to you. He'll feel ashamed. and remorseful for what he's done to you. And eventually, if you love him enough, if you love your abuser enough, they'll come around. I don't think that's what this verse means at all. I think the complete Jewish Bible is the only translation I found that got it right. And by the way, that's an excellent translation. If you're going to study narcissism in the Bible, the complete Jewish Bible is tops. I don't know who translated it, but it's outstanding, in my opinion. Let me read this to you from the complete Jewish Bible. If someone who hates you is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will heap fiery coals of shame on his head, and Adonai will reward you. Fiery coals of shame. Fiery coals of shame. A person feels shame when they're exposed, when their heart is exposed and it ain't pretty, when their character is exposed and it's kind of ugly. That's when shame comes out in most cases. I'm not talking about toxic shame. I'm talking about true shame. It's a feeling of nakedness. You feel exposed. When you showed an act of completely sincere, unprovoked kindness and love to your narc, and they flew into a rage from it, you probably didn't know at the time, but you were exposing them to themselves. They realized, whether at a conscious level or a subconscious level, they could see just how black and empty their own inner life was at that moment. Because there's nothing in there to reciprocate. There's no love in there. There's no kindness in there. You exposed them. They didn't like it. Oh, where is it? I should know this. It's in the New Testament. But it says, morally depraved people are past feeling. They don't feel anymore inside. They've hardened their heart so much over such a prolonged period of time that it's cauterized in there. They don't feel anything anymore. And when they saw that sincere love, sincere compassion and kindness coming out of you, it exposed, I believe, I don't understand this fully, but I believe for a brief moment, they understood just how depraved and empty and bankrupt they are inside. And they flew into a rage against you. You exposed them. You heaped coals of fire on their head. I'd imagine if you heaped coals of fire, if you took, say you fired up the grill, and you took those briquettes that were red hot, took a shovel to them, and then poured those red hot coals on someone's head, it's gonna burn. They felt burned. They were exposed. That is all the red flag you need to know that that person is your enemy. When someone craps all over your act of sincere kindness, when they fly into a rage at your act of love and kindness, you got a problem. That person's your enemy. He's an enemy of your soul.